Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Secret Sunday session today. Today, I'm joined by Darius Boyd, and today we're going to be talking about Darius's story as well as talking about men's mental health, because of course we're in the month of November where we really want to start these critical conversations within the community. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to head it over to Darius, where I'm going to ask the first question that I always ask, which is, for those people that don't know you, who is Darius Boyd and what are you doing with yourself now?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I don't like answering that too much, to be honest. Who am I? I guess I'm just a normal person that is had some ups and downs in my mental health, as we all do, I guess, in different circumstances and situations. Lucky enough to play rugby league at the highest level, which probably heightened some of my mental health troubles and challenges, but also led me to a path where I could get some professional help and really make a difference in my own life, and then moving forward, be able to hopefully make a difference in other people's lives. And that's what, since my rugby league career is finished, I've been really proactive and trying to learn more around, I guess, not just my own well-being, but what I can do for others and help others, and both from a lived experience and educational standpoint. And it's something that I'm very passionate about and I've fallen into, but something that I'm really enjoying my current role.
Amazing. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about your career, because it was such a big part of your life. Why did you begin playing rugby league in the first place?
I think for me, obviously, I guess growing up, I was a kid that loved sports. I didn't really know what sport. I tried a lot of different ones. But I had a really small family growing up. So I guess for me, rugby league was a team sport, and being a part of a team, I guess, having technically 10, 12, 15 brothers as a team, a mentor or a coach was another one. I didn't grow up with a father. I was an only child. So having those kind of, I guess, mentors and brothers, teammates, mates, friendships, I think it really drew me to team sport, and I really just love rugby league since I was probably 6 years old. I fell in love with it when I first started playing, and I think that's something that I've really enjoyed ever since.
Amazing. You debuted quite young. Did you find that you were ready?
Physically, I think I was ready. Probably mentally and emotionally, I think I was. I was only 18, but probably had mental skills or the mindset of probably 15 or 16-year-old. So I think I had to learn and grow up really, really quickly, and made some good decisions, made some bad ones. But that's all. You live and you learn and you grow. And I definitely grew from the experience. Something that I probably learned the hard way, a lot of different things in life, but end goal, I guess, it's led me to where I am today. And it's, like I said, seeking help, getting some help with my well-being, and putting myself on a good path moving forward. It's something that I'm grateful for that experience.
And we talk about, I guess, ill mental health and everybody having their own mental health journey. Did you come to a stage where you found that you did have ill mental health?
Yeah, it was something that I probably midway through my career, probably almost 9 years ago now. I've probably been struggling for a few years that I could see anyway. But I think back to my childhood, like I said, not having a father, having a few close male father figures pass away. My mum was diagnosed with depression when I was 15. So these were things that I probably didn't deal with until my mid-20s. And then it probably all come crashing down on me, and something that I had to, like I said, get professional help. But it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I really needed some guidance. I needed a break. I just needed some time to focus on myself, my well-being, what was important for me, where I wanted to, see myself for the next 3 to 5 years and moving forward. And looking back, it was a tough decision, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And like I said, everyone has a journey, and every journey is going to be different. But for me, that was something that I needed to do, and something that I look back on with fond memories.
And prior to seeking that help, did you find that footy was a way with coping with a lot of that trauma that you went through?
Oh, definitely. I think so. It was definitely the escape. It's something I've loved for a long period of time, and it was a dream of mine to play at the highest level, and I've managed to achieve that. But I think, going out there on the weekend, you could, I suppose, use your body as a battering ram, I guess. It could be a little bit violent, I guess. It could be mixed emotions. There's success, there's failure, there's injuries, there's criticism. But that 80 minutes every week, you could go out there and just really give it your all, let off steam, and I really just, I suppose, get out of your head and just into the game and really focus on that game. Is that 80 minutes that you love. But I guess you realise, as when you get older, and you realise what's important and how well-being works. I guess that 80 minutes a week is not enough to get out of your own head and feel at ease or at peace. So I had to figure out how I do that all weeks, every week, every day, and that's something that the mental health facility really helped me with.
And then seeking help, did you find that was really hard for you to break down that barrier and actually say that you weren't okay?
Yes and no. I think for me, I was probably getting professional help with a psychologist for probably 2 years prior to going to a mental health facility. So I think for me, it was something that I realised after those 2 years and things not getting better that I needed to really take time away from my schedule and work and everything else that I felt was pulling me in different directions, and I really just needed time to focus on me and just, I suppose, to recharge and figure out what's important in life and where I wanted to go. I was going down a pretty slippery slope. It was something that I was pushing a lot of close people away in my life, and it wasn't going to be a good place to be in much more time down the track if I kept going that way. So it wasn't easy to reach out, but at the same time, I knew I wasn't the same happy kid, or that didn't have the same positive mindset that I might have had when I was younger. I didn't know where it went, didn't know why I was going to get help, didn't know what kind of help I needed, but I knew that something wasn't right and that I needed to make a change. And that's why at the end I was really open and honest to be able to go to the facility and just try to get as much as I could get out of it to hopefully better myself.
Were you scared of going to a facility, being in the space that you were and having the presence that you do have in the media?
Yes and no. I mean, I guess at this time, this is 2014, so social media wasn't as big as it is today. It was only probably just, I think Instagram only just started relatively a year or two before that, and Facebook had probably been around for a little while, but it wasn't as big as what it is today. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was in the news. I remember sitting in the facility, and the first day, a breaking news article come across the TV, and it was about me checking into a facility. So that was obviously not easy and a challenge. And even when I left the facility, there was a few articles that were written about me and where I was and what I was doing, and was I returning to rugby league, and a few things. So yeah, it's quite hard, I guess, to play that in public setting. But then, looking back now, I think it was the best thing for me, because I really think that it kept me accountable at the same time. That I'd gone there to make a change, and people knew me before, and some of my actions and behaviours. And then hopefully they could see the action, not just my words, but see me action the changes that I thought I did make in there and wanted to continue to make when I left the facility. And I think that's where, in one aspect, it heightened the challenge, but it really made me accountable and helped me on my path to recovery as well.
And if you don't mind me asking, what do you think changed in terms of coming
out? When I left the facility?
Yeah.
I think there was a few things we worked on. For me, there's like 3 key aspects. One was obviously speaking about my childhood and my trauma there, I guess, and just kind of putting that to bed. My mum and myself lost contact for 8 years. So one of my, action plans to leave the clinic was to reconnect with my mum, which I did that. Another one was not to return to rugby league initially. Obviously that being my passion, but at the same time as part of my, I suppose, undoing and the challenge, especially with injuries and criticism and performance. There's so many different challenges in professional sport, so that was another goal of mine. And then another one was just to work on some of the things I'd learned in the clinic around empathy, gratitude, growing my support network. Some different things that work on just your resilience and your growth mindset, I guess. And these were things that I wanted to continue to work on, because obviously with the clinic I was there for 3 weeks and I learned a lot, but 3 weeks doesn't change your lifetime. It's a constant improvement, constant proactive journey. So my goal was to obviously go to the clinic, learn what I could learn, and then to facilitate as much as I could outside of that. And that's something that I still practice those things in different ways today. But those first 6 to 12 months were really crucial.
And how do you go about implementing practices like that at home when it is then all on yourself?
Yeah, and I think that is the hardest challenge. I remember I still keep in contact with a nurse that I met in the facility. She was like a second mother to me, still is. She's been amazing. And I remember asking her, what's conversion rate when people go to a facility to when they, do they come back and whatnot? And she's like, oh, you'd be surprised. It's actually quite poor because, when you come to the facility, you get 3 meals a day. You have a couple of sessions in the morning with groups. You have your own individual psychologist or psychiatrist assigned to you individually. Then you have a couple of sessions in the afternoon. Then there's mindfulness, yoga. There's the gym that opens at 4:00. So there's all these things. You're just working on you day in, day out. You don't have to pay the bills. You don't have to pick up kids. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to do all the things we have to do as adults. So the challenge is really when you leave to put all those things you've learned in the clinic back into practice. Into daily, weekly routines in the real world, I guess. So it's I suppose it's something that you have to work really hard at and really goal set and have a routine. That's what I found for me personally. Gratitude journaling was one. Writing in a gratitude journal. I did that in the clinic for 3 weeks, and I did that for the next 2 years sporadically, but I did it for the next 2 years outside the clinic. Like I said, some of those action plans around meeting with my mum, kind of closing that chapter of seeing what she'd gone through all those years ago, and our relationships definitely not the same, but it's so much better than what it was when we weren't in contact. Reconnecting with my wife and some close friends that I needed to work on as well. Getting out in the community and adding value as well. That was something that was big for me. Where I knew I was a good person, but maybe my actions, behaviours, and my thought process. Mindset wasn't showing that. So to get out in the community and add value in other ways. So whenever work's not going well, or you got different stress or pressure in life, then you still feel good about you. I think that's really, really important. That's something that doing some community work, random acts of kindness, charitable giving, volunteering. I think that can really be beneficial for your well-being too. So there's a few different things there, but the key is to really just keep trying to practice those things. Exercise is another one. I was a professional athlete, so I guess I probably took it for granted, but I'm retired now, and I know that exercise is just a big part of my life still, and just as much my physical health as my mental health. So there's a few things there, but just trying to put those important things into your daily, weekly routine so that when the life challenges and the roller coaster of life comes around, it doesn't knock you for six. You're going to be challenged, but you've got all these protective factors in place.
Preach that or share that message to people, that especially men, when we're talking about honouring a man's mental health? How do you preach that to a person like that have those barriers and say, well, that's a female thing or that's feminine? How do you change those mindsets and really share that message?
Yeah, that's a challenge, and that's an art. And I think from my own experience, at the end of the day, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And hopefully people are surrounding themselves with like-minded people. Hopefully, seeing other people share and see what they've overcome to where they are today can help. Sharing your experience and wisdom and some of the tools and strategies around resilience and growth mindset. Maybe hopefully that can help. But end of the day, these people that you're talking about, they've got to want to action it for themselves. And for me, previously to the clinic, 2 years prior, like I said, I was seeing a psychologist, but I was listening, but I wasn't really there. I really didn't want it hard enough or enough, and it didn't work for me. It wasn't until rock bottom, and I felt like I had, almost lost everything in life that I really wanted to make a change. And I think that's the key, is just trying to get around that message to people that you don't want to get to rock bottom and maybe it's too late before you want to make a change. So. And it's small steps too. It's not something that it's going to happen overnight. You don't have a hour conversation with a friend, or listen to a mental health seminar or a podcast or anything like that, and things just drastically happen overnight. But small steps, little wins. Always talk about a calendar. If you got 30 days on a calendar, if you have 20 ticks and 10 crosses, you've had a good month. So no one's perfect, but just making sure that you're having more ticks than crosses. And you're on the way to growth and improvement, then you're doing well.
When we look at the sporting industry as well, it is such a pressure endorsed environment that a lot of athletes are in. Do you think that the industry is now supporting players more than ever in terms of their mental health?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely more than ever is supporting the players. I still think more can be done, and yes, it's a hard environment. It's a pressure cooker industry. High performing teams. A lot of money and sponsorship dollars. And, corporate partners. There's so much money invested. There's 24/7 talk shows. Social media, whether that's mainstream media. There's so many different challenges and ways you can be pulled off the wagon, I guess. But there's so much has been done in the last 8 or 9 years in the wellbeing space, but I always think more can be done, and that's, I suppose, where the game and individual clubs can really I suppose get the best out of their players. And I think that's where some of the best teams you see you generally have the best probably coaches and support staff, and there's wellbeing and education managers at every NRL club now. There's part-time ones at the state cup levels, Queensland, New South Wales Cup. So it's more spoken about, it's more resourced, but definitely more can be done in my opinion.
We talk, or we hear a lot about footy players in particular being scrutinised in the media, whether it's people's opinions thinking footy players have too much time, too much money, and too much opportunity on their hands. What do you think to that stereotype? Do you think it's unfair to put that on players, that they're just almost ungrateful?
Yeah, I do personally. I mean, it could call me biased from coming from that background, but I guess in my perspective, you're worth what you're worth. It's not your fault that you pick a job that in some people's eyes pays really well, and whether you think they have downtime, off time. But like I said before, the highs are high and the lows are low. So it's unrealistic world and environment. And for some of these kids, and I was one of them at different stage. They're 18 years of age, just leaving school, getting paid really good amounts of money, and the level of pressure and expectation coming with that that they're probably not ready for is enormous. And sometimes depending on their background, and a lot of them come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. They've had hardship, they've had trauma, they've had struggle. Some of them have to cultural beliefs have to provide for their families. There's so many different ways that they are getting pulled, and if they're not around a stable environment at their club with the coaching staff, support staff, wellbeing, all the people I just mentioned before, then they're going to be in trouble, and that's just reality. And I think we only have to think back to your own younger self, whether you're work at Woolworths, or you're a doctor, or you're tradie. We've all done silly things when we're young. We're all learning. We're all on that learning path. But some of these guys that are put in the spotlight at a young age, I said before, on good amounts of money with some downtime, challenges and growth is going to happen. And unfortunately, it's played out for the public to see.
Do you think that pressure is too much on players?
This day and age, it's probably getting that way. Yeah, I think like I said, we're not letting 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids be kids. Like I said, when I started, the money wasn't. I think I was on $20,000 my first year. These days, there's kids on $500,000 as 18-year-old. So, and with that price tag comes responsibility, and especially in the media circles. And if they're 18, 19 and getting paid that money and haven't, I suppose, taken over a game or been in the top 3 players of their team, then criticism is going to come. And then on the back of that becomes social media criticism. Talk about injuries, and then I said again, all the outside parts, family, buying a house, relationships, alcohol. There's so much that adds to that, So it's a hard space to be in. I mean, I'm lucky. Sometimes I feel lucky that I played when I played, and I finished when it's just getting the expectation and the pressure is getting heightened. I think it's very hard for young people in any sport to be an athlete in today's society.
In your opinion, how do we support them better?
Need good people around them, and you need a lot of them, and that's hard because I think a lot of people have to have that holistic view on well-being as a person. I think the best coaches in any sport have that view. They generally see the athlete as a person, and they have their holistic, well-being at the front of their mind. So they think about their family, their finances, their background, cultural beliefs, ethnicity, all these different things you have to think about. You have to treat the person as the person, because ultimately, if you get the best out of that individual and make them be the best version of themselves, then they'll be good on Friday or Saturday, whatever sport they're playing. So, and that's in any industry, that's in any workforce. If you just provide a solid environment and culture at any workforce, everyone's good at their job. They're there because they're good at their job. But external factors can take you away from being present in the moment and doing your best at your job. So, if we have better people that have a holistic view on well-being and the best, and creating, I suppose, an environment where people can be the best version of themselves, I really think that's where you'll take the pressure and some of this challenge off some of these athletes of today.
Yeah, amazing. I couldn't agree more. And looking at what you're doing today, why do you feel it's so important for you to share your message and share your story?
Two reasons. I think for me, firstly, it just really helps me. It's part of my own story. It's something that I learned from the facility, from the clinic, just to own my own story and be proud of it. And it helps me, part of my own well-being, just sharing my story. For such a long time, I probably hid my story away or didn't feel comfortable or didn't own it. So to be able to own it and just use it as a strength of mine now, I guess, is something that I feel good about internally for me. And then secondly, then hopefully if my story can help somebody else, then that's a win too. And especially in the rugby league circle, I still work in the rugby league community a little bit. So to be there around some current players, I can share my story on and off the field. I played at the highest level, so some of the players would know that, but also got to share that it doesn't all come with sunshine and rainbows too. There's a lot of trouble, a lot of hardship, a lot of adversity along the way. But if you want to grow and be better and be the best version of yourself, then you can path out a successful career in sport, but probably more importantly, be a really good human being for life in general.
And do you feel that when you do speak to players and you're supporting them in this environment, that they are resonating with you and that they are learning and growing through that?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I guess for me, I don't probably go into detail too much with the players. I kind of just let them know that I'm there and that I care. I think that's enough. I think for me, I had a few really important people in my life, in my teens and later adult years, that really just put an arm around me here and there, and just I knew I could generally trust them, and they did generally care. And I think that's what I've just tried to do for these other players in different ways. Whether it's just a coffee, whether it's checking in on how their weekend was, whether it's giving them positive feedback about how they were at training. Just being really positive, kind, and making sure they know that whatever is said with me, it stays with me. I think that's just something that it's hard to find people you can trust and share. So the more people that feel comfortable in that space around me, then I hope that they feel that they can do that.
And I get this a lot, but the term well-being or wellness, it's so diverse. The meaning is so grand, but what does well-being mean to you?
I think for me, it's that holistic view. Just everything, whether it is your finances, relationships, your work, your social life, the community, just cultural, spiritual, just that whole holistic view. I think if you look at it that way, then, and you look at it and what you do in those spaces or how you feel about those spaces, and predominantly if you're ticking off most of those boxes that you feel pretty confident or comfortable or trusting in those areas, then you'll be doing pretty well. I think sometimes, like you say, it's not just physical and mental. There's so much more to it. You can have a good mindset, well, you think, and you can be pretty active, but you don't feel like you belong in social situations. You don't feel part of your community, or cultural, spiritual beliefs you're a bit uneasy with. Then there's 3 or 4 boxes that aren't ticked. Financially, if you're not finding it hard to pay the bills and rent and find your next putting food on the table, or you got family to feed, that's a stress. Then that's another one. So I think there's a lot to it. It is a broad view, but if you're having a bit of an understanding of all of them, and even just having some goals around them, if you need to improve in some areas, then as long as you feel like you're on the way to growth and better, I think that's important as well.
And do you think that there are simple practices that you've got to implement every day to be on board with being on board with your wellbeing?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think so. And I think when you understand, what's important to you, or where you want to be, or like I said, growth, I think is really important. Whether that's you might not be there now, and it might be 2 years away to get to a space you want to get to. But if you know you're working towards that, then it kind of puts you at ease. So it doesn't you don't have to have all those boxes ticked today, but as long as you're on the right path and you feel like you're growing and always improving or reaching or aspiring for a goal, then I think that's really, really important. So I think it's something that not to think, oh, I don't have all these boxes ticked, or I really don't feel well about that. Okay, well, how do I achieve that, and when do I want to achieve it by? And if I'm taking small steps today towards that, then that's a win. And but yeah, it's something that you definitely have to be working on, I think, consistently. But it doesn't really feel like a work on once you really nail down those strategies. I think it just becomes part of who you are and what you do, and that's just part of life. Whether that's exercise, or I don't know, out in the community, giving back, or merging traffic, letting someone let in front of you. Just the small gestures can go a really long way. But there's different ways you can do these daily, and it just becomes part of who you are instead of actually part of more work or more commitment into your life.
And looking at your own journey, did you ever think you'd be in the position that you are today?
No, definitely not. I never really thought this far ahead, to be honest. But I guess when I look back now, my career's, my sporting career's finished, and what I'm doing now, I really always, have a lot of gratitude and fond memories. I think just because there was a point in my career where I was, going down a slippery slope, like I mentioned before, and wasn't really sure where life was going to be for me or what it looked like. But now that I am finished and have a long time to work and have another career, I'm really grateful that I've been able to put some really good things in place and have some things that are exciting for the next part of my life, which it really excites me, and I'm very grateful for that as well.
Which I would only imagine would be quite difficult, as you were explaining why you started playing rugby league at the start was almost for that family feeling, and then having to leave that. Was that difficult in itself, knowing that you had to leave behind not only the game that you loved, but the family that was there for you during that time that you needed them?
Yeah, well, that's why I suppose I feel really lucky. I guess I learned middle of my career that rugby league would finish at some point, and I needed to set myself up afterwards. And one part of the facility was my work on my support network. Like I said, I didn't have a father. Two of my father figures passed away when I was young. My mum was in a mental health facility herself, so I didn't have a lot of support. So I had to grow my support. And now, yes, I'm out of rugby league, but I have my wife. I've got 3 daughters, so I've got my own really close family. But then also, I've got probably 5 or 6 guys, and they're a bit older than me, some of them, but I really look to them as mentors and father figures. They're mates, and we catch up regularly. Whether we talk about business, life, opportunity, our well-being, mindset, whatever, we just, they're people I can really count on that support me. So yes, I don't have a team that I go and see most days, and I am involved in league still, so I do see a team, but they're a lot younger than me. But I have my own support team that I still spend plenty of time with, and talk about all the important stuff that keep me in the right headspace.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so incredible because you also hear a lot of stories where people do retire and then they lose themselves, they lose their identity almost because they've been playing for such a long period of time and it's been such a large part of their life that when they step away, it's like, well, what now? Who am I? And it's like you've almost got to rediscover yourself. But it's amazing that you've created those support networks for yourself. Was it hard to find? I know you said you got a lot of help with that, but how do people that just say have no one, where do they start to look for these support networks?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, in the facility, I had to we did a bit of art therapy, and it was drawing a family tree, and on the branches writing down some of your support networks. And that was probably the first time I've really come across and really looked at it and gone, wow, I don't actually have a lot. I've never really thought of it that way. But in that facility, I had 4 people come and visit me, and so thinking back to that, I was like, wow, well, those 4 people, probably in my support network, so they come and made a massive effort to come and see me in a time of need. That nurse, like I said, I still keep in contact with her. It's been 9 years. We're really, really close. Like she's been like a second mother to me. So she's definitely a part of that. And then I guess over the last 8 or 9 years, I've been probably not so much on the lookout for people, but as more people have come into my life, I've been more open to letting people in, which is something I probably wasn't doing previous. And then people have just fallen in because they've been like-minded, or we've got along really well, and over time, I've been able to trust them and know that they have my best interests at heart. And I think that's the key too, is that you don't need 50, you don't need 20. If it's 3, that's enough. 5, whatever you're comfortable with. But as long as you've got those people, and it might take a bit of time to find those, because you can't just start trusting anyone on first or second meeting. But over time, or you might even look at some people and you might think, wow, I haven't really shared with this person before. But when I really think about them, every time I've needed them, or every time, and for the good times as well, they've always been there. Wow, maybe I need to actually, reach out to them a bit more and thank them, and just go, know that they're actually someone that I can really count on as a support person.
Yeah, incredible. And lastly, looking at your whole career and the whole lessons that you've learned, what is the number one thing that you feel that you've taken away and really helped you grow as a person?
Oh, that's a hard question.
It's always hard because you got to pick one and you feel like you've learned so much.
Yeah. I just think, well, I guess the biggest lesson, I guess, was just to reach out, ask for help. I think for me, I was a really quiet, introverted kid. Realized my dream at an early age, but I didn't realize that the media and the scrutiny and all the stuff that comes with playing sport. I just played sport because I loved it and I was okay at it. So to realize that all comes with it. Try to hide my life away for a really long time. Really didn't want to be a part of certain parts of professional sports, but then realizing that you can actually use it to your advantage, and reaching out and asking for help was, like I said, the best decision I've ever made. And so many good things have happened for me and to me because of asking for help. I always say good things happen to good people, and I had some good things happen to me pre-clinic, but definitely post-clinic. I just feel like sometimes I have to pinch myself and say, wow, I'm so lucky that I have my family, on my kids, or these people, or this new opportunities come up, or whatever it may be. And what you could call that a growth mindset, you can call it whatever you want, manifesting. But I guess end of the day, for me, I just think a lot of good things have happened for me reaching out, asking for help, and trying to be the best version of myself. And if I can help anyone else achieve that, then I'd love to do so.
Amazing. Congratulations on that entire journey and being the person that you are today, because it's hard work, and it's amazing that you are in the place that you are today and can really share your story and help others. Lastly, I just want to ask a little quick question about your playing career. What was the highlight of playing rugby league? Was there a certain team, a certain game, a certain try, or what was something that really stands out in your mind as something that sticks with you today?
Yeah, I've probably got a few. I was pretty lucky, I guess. First one was just my first game for the Broncos. I was a little kid from the Gold Coast, so they were always my favourite team. I watched them play on TV and ended up in Brisbane a few times. So to actually get to play for them was obviously a dream come true. Winning the grand final, did that twice in my career, which was amazing to do that, which what you want to achieve in team sports. Some individual accolades playing for my state and country. And then finally to be able to captain the Broncos when I come back to Brisbane. I think for me, again, young, shy, introverted, kid that had some issues and some troubles, and they were well publicised throughout my career in early stages, to then, again, from asking help and making a change, to be able to eventually captain one of the most successful sporting organisations in Australia in any sport. Something that, again, for me, that wanted to play one game for the Broncos to eventually captain them, was something that I've always held close to my heart and be very, very proud of. Again, that only come on the back of me reaching out for help and making a change and wanting to grow. So A lot of positives, a lot of highlights, but overall very grateful for the career I was able to have.
Amazing. And I'm sure the rest of, I know at least the footy community were amazed at watching you and seeing how your career played out. So as I said, congratulations on that journey. That is phenomenal. And thank you so much for coming on here today and sharing your story and really giving us a little bit of insight into, things that we don't always get to see. We always see the media, or we always see the headlines, and unfortunately it's always negative, but to actually see all the work that you've done, it's phenomenal. So congratulations on that.
No worries. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No worries. And thank you everyone else out there for joining us again for another Secret Sunday session. Hope you have a great Sunday, and I'll catch you all next week.